Hey, what the
Hey, what's going on, guys? Petey here. Today we're going to talk about which class tech I think you guys should pick, and I'll just kind of give some general descriptions of each one of them. I'm going to break them down by what they do 1v1 versus how they are in like a giant league battle, maybe like a 5v5, something like that, and give you guys some more information about the classes and give you my take on them. So first off, talking just 1v1. So 1v1s happen quite a bit. Typically it'll happen in the earlier parts of the game. Coming in later, you'll see more 2v1s, 3v1s, 3v3s, stuff like that. But in the beginning of the game, without a doubt, the best class tech is the tanker. They're really strong in the beginning of the game because you can get light tanks very, very strong. And you can also get out tigers really quick. And typically in the beginning of the game, there's no bombers yet. So where tanker shines is the fact that it's very high defense troops, and yeah, it's pretty much high defense troops. They could just you can roll tigers into somebody's city and capture them, and that's it. Now where they fault is the fact that their AA isn't as upgraded as Cannoneer, for example. So when bombers get out, Cannoneers, say they make Flak 41 and their Cannoneer tech's fully upgraded, it takes 22 tanker Flak to match 15 cannon Flak as far as damage goes. Did a video on that if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, so their Flak is a lot weaker than cannon's Flak. So you got to keep that into account to protect your tanks. But for the most part, tanks 1v1 are very solid. There's not a lot of people that can run in that can kill you. If you bump into someone that has M40s and they're not positioned as well as you are, you'll be able to win that fight pretty much every time. So depending on what your army composition is and your levels and stuff like that. Now moving on 1v1 to Airmen. I love Airmen for 1v1s. There's a bunch of different bombers you can go. We have Avro Lancaster. This is more of a building killing troop. Mitsubishi is more of a ship killing bomber. Less building. It's more of killing like units. Douglas Dauntless is really good for vehicles and armor, but low HP. And then Strategic Bomber is good for everything pretty much, but it's just slow. So I've made a video on these bombers as well. You guys can check that out. But you have a lot of versatility as far as what you want to do. If you're going into a 1v1 battle with somebody and you have Strategic Bombers or Mitsubishis or Douglases, you'll more than likely wipe them no matter what they have, as long as you know how to attack well. That's pretty true if it's a Cannoneer, a tanker, anything, or potentially even another Airman. Airman's very strong in 1v1 battles. And then finally, Cannoneer. So Cannoneer in 1v1s is also very strong. It could get killed by tanker, and it could also get killed by Airman. Now, typically, I know I said that running Strats and Mitsubishis are the two best PvP troops, and that holds very well. But a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people don't run those. They'll run something like Avro Lancasters or Pistols or something kind of weird like that. In that case, you'll be able to shoot down any plane that comes at you if you're a Cannoneer. In some cases, if you're not fighting against upgraded Mitsubishis or B-29s, you can shoot those down as well. So you got a lot of anti-air protection, the best in the game with the Cannoneer class with all the different flak upgrades. And then as far as the actual Cannoneer part of it, sadly, you don't really get that many bonuses. I mean, you get some speed, you get a couple things of attack, but I did a video on how strong this really is, and you really don't get that much attack when running Cannoneer for your troops like howitzers, M40s, rockets. It's more about your flak when you run Cannoneer, believe it or not. So yeah, so those are the breakdowns of the three. Now we'll talk about we'll go like a 5v5 scenario. So in a 5v5 scenario, typically flak are very important. Typically tanks are important, cannons, and Airmen not so much. Airmen kind of falls back. Now, if we're going to get into a fight where, say, we're attacking the city and you got enemies over here, and then our team is over here, you're fighting, basically, bombers will kind of sit back. They might have jets as well. Jets will kind of circle around, try to kill gigs, try to kill scouts, get sight lines, get sight control, air dominance. But for the most part, wherever flak move, you are not pushing towards those in a 5v5. You're trying to preserve your bombers and wait for your M40, your teammate M40s, your teammate tanks to kill off flak before you go in to wipe out their army. So Air Force is not necessarily the best PvP in the game, and 1v1s it is, but once you get into those league battles, it falls off pretty drastically. Uh, you you can't push into like 30 flak; you're gonna get shot down all day. So tanker in these battles is very strong. Typically, they're just used to get up into the sight lines of the M40s and the AA and just kill them from very close. While they're shooting at something else or shooting at you. You have a ton of defense versus M40s and rockets and stuff like that. And they're used to really mitigate damage. So that way your M40s can shoot at their M40s. That's pretty much their purpose. And then Cannoneer, like I said, the flak is very strong. M40s are very strong. Rockets are very strong. And that's kind of the main PvP troop. Now, yeah, so the big thing about 5v5s, you need a bunch of cannoneers. Those guys are going to be um, they're going to be your main killers. You could go without air, you can even go without tanks and still be fine as long as you have cannons. Now, talking about it in terms of upgrades, let's see. So I went Air Force, or I went tanks and then I went Air Force. But basically, you're going to need to max out whatever troops you want to go. So, say if I was a cannoneer, I'd be trying to max out my M40s or my rockets and my howitzers. If I was a tanker, I would max out light tanks, medium tanks, tigers, Pershings, mosses, that sort of thing, flak. And then if I was a cannoneer, I'd max out M40s, flak, rockets. Oh, I already said that. And if I was an airman, it would depend on whatever bomber I want to run. Max out the bomber, and then you want to max out fighters and jets and scouts as well. So, depending on what you want to upgrade, you should pretty much just hone in on that one thing to make yourself as powerful as possible. So you want to run Cannoneer, just focus solely on doing M40s, and then solely on rockets after that, solely on flak. Airmen, focus bombers, so on and so forth. As far as these go, you can get very expensive. I know that M40s are very expensive, and I know that strategic bombers are very expensive as well to upgrade. Gold coins. Tanker isn't that much. I mean, you can get tigers maxed out pretty cheap. Mosses might be a different story. Mine aren't even close to upgraded, so. But I think the cheapest to run would more than likely. I think they're all about the same as far as gold coins. As far as tech goes, there's really not any that overpower the other. They all have their pros and cons, like we talked about. I think it's just personal preference on which one you pick. But the good thing about it is knowing when, or knowing the things we talked about, like how they operate in battle, and thinking of what type of playstyle you want. Now, the final thing, and this is the reason I switched to air in the first place from tanker, is whenever you have air, you can take your air army and you could go and you can bomb a city, and as soon as it's bombed, you fly back, rearm, go out, bomb another city, fly back, rearm, so on and so forth. Um, it's it's very nice versus a tanker or a cannon more than tanker. But if you have M40s, you're gonna go move to somebody's city, and then you need to drop your units, kill off the city, and then usually you'll blow up the airport. So then you'll have to gem up the city, repair the airport, and then reload all your troops and then go again. That was one reason that I switched off a tanker. Tanker's kind of the same way. You can roll them around too if you want. It's very dangerous though because you need your flak with you at all times in case bombers show up. But that was one of the reasons I switched off of those. I think Cannoneer is the coolest class in my opinion. I think Tanker is the best for early game, um, but Cannoneer they have a lot of fun fighting. It's just whenever there's not a big fight or whenever you're just trying to kill rebels or anything like that, trying to load up every single freaking time to keep your army moving is just a chore, and it takes a lot of gems and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of my analysis on the different techs. If you guys got any questions, any further questions, please ask them down in the comments. I want to make sure that you guys are squared away on what units you should get, because it's very, or yeah, what tech tree you're gonna go right off the bat, because then you could start dumping gold in, and then you could start getting into these fights with high level leagues and these experienced, 4 or 5 year veteran players, and you won't be too far off from them. You'll be able to actually kill them by investing just in a couple troops versus like changing your mind 90 times. So yeah, that's it for me, guys. Leave comments, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. PD out.